Okay, members, we are running slightly behind, but we'll have the Aotearoa Chinese Legal Support Foundation next. Is that Jerry Yu? Good afternoon. Thank you for your submission, and we have 10 minutes to hear from you. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jerry Yu. I'm very delighted to be here addressing the oral submission on behalf of the Aotearoa Chinese Legal Support Foundation. The foundation is a charitable trust established for the purpose of building up a bridge connecting Chinese people to the options of solving their legal problems. We assist to let people in the Chinese community know what the New Zealand law is, how to seek or to whom to seek solutions through the legal resources in New Zealand, and to provide them with urgent legal assistance. Since last year, the foundation has held several events, including collaborating with the Auckland Council's library to invite professional employment relationship consultants to conduct online/offline seminars, distributing free electronic leaflets on the employment law in Chinese language, and assisting in handling employment disputes. Concerns and the questions we collected and summarized during these events constitute the basis of our submission. In the written submission, I have mentioned that failure to meet the minimum standards and the illegal premium for gaining a job are two typical types of migrant exploitation in the Chinese community. Cultural norms and values, lack of knowledge of law, lack of competence for a judge or for a judgment or in court order can be effectively enforced. Lack of Chinese-speaking employment lawyers and practitioners, and the lack of opportunities to joining trade unions are the causes of migrant exploitation in the Chinese community. Today, what I'm going to say to the Parliament is that the government will need to take meaningful steps to ensure the Chinese community being accessible to the law. Our understanding is the dominant languages in New Zealand are English and Maori, but there are many people in our country do not understand the languages, neither English nor Maori. There is no doubt that these people are an integral part of New Zealand society. It is an obligation of those people to abide by the New Zealand laws. At the same time, it is also the obligation for the government to ensure those people can be accessible to the law. Most of migrant workers from China have experiences of operating their own business or being employed in China before they moved to New Zealand. Although many of them have been doing business or working in New Zealand for many years, their awareness and understanding of New Zealand law is far less than their understanding of the Chinese law. Some of them running their business, the employment matters in New Zealand, only based on their knowledge of Chinese laws, rules, values, or moralities, as if they are still in China. Some of them are simply acting on their naive knowledge of good faith, equality, and honesty in their minds. Since last September, the foundation has held several employment seminars, during which we received many questions and inquiries from the Chinese community. Based on questions raised by Chinese community, we can draw a general description as follows. Most Chinese migrant workers have never had a look at the Employment Relations Act 2000. Some of them do not know its existence. Most Chinese migrant workers are unaware of restraint of trade clause in New Zealand, while more than a small portion of Chinese people are aware of this in China. Most employers are unaware for what reason they are entitled to fire an employee and its due procedures. Most Chinese migrant workers are unaware of the due procedures to claim any entitlements against his or her employers. A large portion of Chinese migrant workers are unaware of whether they must compensate for the loss in the damages arising from their negligence in the employment. A large portion of Chinese migrant workers are unaware of how to refuse an overtime request from an employer. A large portion of Chinese migrant workers are unaware of New Zealand public holiday arrangements and their entitlements when they work on those public holidays. A large portion of Chinese migrant workers are unaware of health and safety rules requirements for the industry he or she works in. A large portion of Chinese migrant workers do not know a clause such as prescribing the employee shall work for the employer for at least 1 or 2 or some years until he or she gains the resident visa is illegal. A large portion of Chinese migrant workers do not know that a clause prescribing the employee must not resign from the employer unless and until he or she has paid a penalty to the employer is illegal. These are the realities. The most critical reason for Chinese migrant workers' unawareness of New Zealand law is the language. I can acknowledge that in recent years, migrant workers from China, their English language abilities are in much better position than ever before. However, this doesn't effectively address the inability of Chinese community to understand the law. Take myself as an example. I'm not a native English speaker. I've been a practicing lawyer in China for more than 15 years. I was also admitted as a barrister and solicitor in New Zealand. When several years ago I was studying law in English language in the law school in New Zealand, I have to say it was a challengeable and a painful experience. At that time, I had legal background and legal experience in China. I had got a result of 6.5 in IELTS test academic category. You can imagine how difficult it would be for Chinese migrant workers who do not speak English to understand the New Zealand law. We must understand access to the law is undoubtedly vitally important for the access to justice and is a significant way to eliminate migrant exploitation. Access to law requires, at very least, all legislation should be open to the public. Yes, as we can see on the legislation.gov.nz, people are able to find all laws or legislation they wanted, just by clicking their mouses. Very, very simple. However, for people who do not speak English, it is not the case. They are unable to read, unable to understand. The formula applicable to them is legislation.gov.nz minus inability of English language equals to the door to justice is partly closed. This is not what we want, neither for the Chinese community, for the government, nor for our New Zealand. I believe access to the law requires all the people actually have to access to the law, no matter what languages they speak. What the Chinese community needs is to access to the contents of the legislation in Chinese language, even if this may be non-official, not perfectly accurate, but it is much better than nothing, at least. Our foundation is now implementing a program, Chinese Legal Assistance Outline, aiming to provide the Chinese community with legal information and to be a bridge between the Chinese community and the available resources and legal resources in New Zealand. One of the important work we are now doing is to translate the Citizen Advisory Bureau, their Q&A, 2,755 questions into plain Chinese language, so that we can answer the questions from the Chinese community through the hotline. We do have volunteers who are good at dual languages, who have legal backgrounds, even dual legal backgrounds. We are capable to do so. But maybe we will have to face some difficulties in the intellectual property issue, in the information connection issue in the future. What we suggest the government to do is to keep a serious eye on the issue of access to the law and the language inability to it. then take meaningful steps to resolve it. This is our oral submission. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry. And you have taken up exactly your 10-minute slot. So well done. Perfectly spoken. It was good to have an insight in the work that you're doing. So I was not aware of it. So thank you so much for that resource that you're providing our Chinese communities in New Zealand. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. My pleasure. 谢谢。